hello, and thank you for joining me again. I haven't made videos for ages, and then I published one, I think it was on Thursday, and now it's Saturday, and I'm ready to get going again. So I seem to have at last found my mojo back. I'm on a bit of a watercolor roll again, so this is going to be another watercolor video. I've been playing with monochrome painting, and I did this, which I posted on Instagram, and people seemed to like it, and I decided I'm going to do another monochrome. When I look at this painting, the things that I don't like about it is that I've got these leaves too crowded on upon one another, so I've decided to try and space the leaves out a bit more, maybe do 3 things. What I do like about it is I like the background I got, and I like the layers that I've used. I'm also not mad about the gold. I used a gold gel pen, and I'm contemplating possibly using some gold paint for some leaves. So it might be monochrome with a touch of gold. We all know that I love some sparkle. So I'm putting this aside. I'm going to do this one on a Khadi paper. I bought these in December, and I've only used one. I really have been wanting these Khadi papers for ages, and they were out of stock in our South African stores, but they came in, and I got this as part of my birthday present. So, I mean, it's 4 months ago now. So this is 320 GSM and an A5 size, and I have opened the thing, and I'm going to use this beautiful paper. Isn't it lovely? It's got a deckled edge and everything. So, checking that I'm in screen, and I'm going to fasten this onto, I had thought on this, but I've changed my mind, and I'm going to find a smaller thing to fasten it onto. So I'll be back in a second. So I found a smaller plastic thing. That's because I often need to turn things around when I work on them. What is nice about this is it's got this little clip thing for when you're writing on, and so it puts this at a slight slant, which could be nice. I'm going to fasten this with, I have some low tack masking tape here, and I hope that it makes a good edge, but at least it shouldn't pull the paper up. I'm often fairly unlucky with pulling paper up. I'm probably too energetic, and then the paper comes up as well as the tape, which is really not the result we want. So here we go. And it's just before Easter Sunday. It's Saturday now. Tomorrow is Easter Sunday. And I know all of the northern hemisphere is going into spring, and I'm seeing all these lovely spring florals everywhere. As you all know, I live in South Africa, so we're going into autumn, or fall as you like to call it in the United States. So we're going into the cooler weather, which I actually love. So now I'm going to do a background, and I've thought that I'm going to do this monochrome in pinks and red. So the red monochrome really, but with pale and going with it. I'm still using the Sennelier paints that I got the other day. So I'm first doing a wet, painting the whole of the back with a quite wide flat brush. This is a size 1 flat brush, black silver by Dynasty or Dynasty, however you pronounce it. I hope I'm using the correct side of this Khadi paper. I don't know if it's got a side that is preferable or not. But anyway, I'm covering the whole thing in water. I want it to be quite wet because I want a very pale, well, because it's all going to be pinky reddy, cloudy sort of background, but maybe I should say misty. So I'm just wiping the water off here, because if some of that water floats in, it can give you watercolor blooms, which can be nice in certain instances, but they're not in my mind for what I want today. And I'm noticing little bubbles on the edge of my masking tape, so I'm just fixing that down again properly on the edges, because I really would love to get a clean edge. Alright, now I'm using a big brush. This is a Raphael number 2. I suppose it's not big, but it's like a mop brush. It's imitation squirrel. And I'm going to use, just from here, from my paint from the Sennelier, it was called Bright Red. And I'm going to water it down as much as I possibly can. I don't really have a space, so I'm going to use this next little place here. I'll just clean it out. I could be using a rose if I happen to have rose, but I haven't, and I feel like using these paints. So watering that down even more, I'm going to just do a light thing along. I want the sides and then some sort of fluffies and the bottom, the lower end. And some lower. This is my problem. I always fill up too much, so now I need to leave that be. And I'm drying off my brush here just to lift some of that extra water off the side, drying it off again and lifting some off the side so that it can move a bit more freely without making a stripe. Just going to rinse it. I love listening to audiobooks, and a while ago I was listening to one, I can't actually remember what it was, and the person speaking kept saying rinse. So I've always called it rinse it, but they kept saying rinse, and it sticks in your mind. So when I say I want to rinse it now, I think of that audiobook. I often listen to audiobooks when I color in, not so much when I paint, strangely enough. But I found that when I look at pictures, bits of the audiobook that I listen to often pop back into my mind. So I'm giving this brush another rinse in some clean water and drying it off in some clean paper towel. And you see some of the red is still coming off. I'm so scared of messing my brushes up. I am financially not all that well to do, so I need to really look after the things I have. So now when I've used the brush, as it's damp, I carefully try to move it back into a point again, and then I'll leave it to dry. Alright, so now I'm leaving this paint to dry, and I'll be back to start my monochrome painting. See you soon. So this is now dried nicely, and as you can see it looks all just sort of soft and fluffy, which is kind of nice. It's sort of what I was hoping for. I was kind of thinking I could have joined up that bit, but never mind. Now I'm going to actually place a drop with this pipette on the paint and another on that bit that I put there. And I have a Craft Ammo brush. Let me put my hand underneath so that you can see. In a size 7. I bought a set, and the round brushes, there was a 7 and I forget the other sizes. Oh yes, here we are. Here's another one. A 7 and a 2 round brush. The others were flat brushes and angled brushes. But the number 2 is not as nice as the 7. It doesn't have as much of a point, but this number 7 has this absolutely wonderful point. So what I'm hoping to do with these leaves is to make a kind of a single stroke leaf. So I hope that I'm successful, and I'm going to do the first layer now. This is quite a long sheet of paper. I could have actually cut it in half. Let me see. Move this down a bit so I don't keep putting my arm all over the film. So the first lot are going to be very pale. Let me do one on the left-hand side. Being right-handed, this is going a little bit over the filming, and my aim is for a thin stem. I'm still finding doing thin things a bit of a struggle, and then press down and lift up, and then I like to encourage that a bit. And then I'm going to go off to the side, press down and lift up to a point. Wasn't much paint on that. Press down and lift up. Not much on that either. Oh dear. Let me see if I can do any better. Going to overlap there. I've added more pigment, and I'm going up again and going to overlap there. When you look in nature, things are always overlapping and growing over each other, so that's what my intention is here. And now I'm going to put some music on for you. I have a subscription. I've been watching Doc Martens, and I nearly said a prescription, but I have a subscription for Epidemic Sound, and I absolutely love their music. They have many choices, but being a classically trained person, I always like the slightly classical acoustic sounds. So I'm going to put on some nice music and continue this. I hope that you enjoy it. So now I think I'm going to leave this to dry. I'd love to have comments back from you and hear how you feel when you get to this stage of a painting. Now, my plan is to maybe do 2 more layers, but I sit here with indecision in my head. Should I make a hanging branch come down? Is that going to crowd it? My vision was to sort of have this, but maybe what I had in my mind required a slightly wider page, or I should have done it the other way around. I'd love to know how you approach paintings like this, if you just go roaring in like I did, although I had done the previous one. But I'm preferring this to the first one I did, I must say. Let me show that one to you again here. That one's finished, and I think that's a bit overcrowded, and this bottom leaf is a real flop. But I think this is looking better. It's empty there, but maybe I'll add, maybe I can add some gold leaves there. So I'm going to do another layer like this, because this is going to dry pale, and I just want to leave it all to dry, and then I'll be back with another layer. So this dried a little bit darker than I expected it to, but I'm going to do another layer, and I think I will speed it up just fractionally and put on some music so that the video doesn't come too long. I've decided when I've finished this layer, I'm going to actually add some gold. So I've got a little piece of test paper and my glitter gold paints here, and I first want to draw a couple of reds here. Oh, you see it's actually painting quite nicely on this slightly cheaper paper. Isn't that funny? Maybe the Khadi paper is much thirstier, not thicker. It is thicker. So interesting how this whole thing is a learning process. I'm losing my words. There we are. All right. Now wash that out, Eliza Jane. It got wet. Do you also find you wash your brush and you wash it and it keeps the paint in it? Wash, 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 wash. Washer, 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 washer. There we go. All right, and now I have some clean water. And I've sort of put a little drop on both this one and the gold, because I had a wonder. I'm just going to take this out of here actually and just see. This is very watery now. What it would look like. Ooh, I like that. Right. Let's get the gold, le gold. I have a friend that used to belong to a supper club that she always used to call les girls, and I'm thinking of le gold, les girls, le gold. All right, so now, well, it's not quite as, it's probably too watery. I probably now have drenched it with water. Ooh, look at that. There's something about gold, isn't there? Going to cross that one. Slightly wet still. Now what should I do? Should I use this one or that one? I'm very torn, but in a strange way I actually think this one looks nicer. Still running a bit. Enjoy the gold and the color and the shine. I wonder if you can see it. Okay, let me let things dry a bit, and I think I'm going to. Not use the gold, but the other one. This is fairly dry, so let me see. So now again, I need to try and remember that less is more. So I'm really swirling this brush in here. Going to take one from this center thing. Ooh, again, it's not going down as well on here. Definitely thirstier paper. Let's do like a curved one. Slightly goes over. There we are. Pick up a bit more and make that nice and go in there. That's quite pretty. And should we just do 3? They always say go for odd numbers, because if you go for even numbers, the eye tries to pair them off, whereas with the odd numbers, it leaves your eye open to exploring. So now I'm going to do dots. I've kind of given up with splatters. I get them on my face and my hair and my desk. I think I'm going to do one right on here. There we go. And everywhere, but not very many on the artwork that I'm trying to get them on. So I'm doing dots this time, and we'll see. I do kind of finish it off a little bit. Whoops, that was a bit big. Tiny point. There we go. Put that away and clean this, and then get some red dots and see how it looks. I'm pleased I put the background in. I do think that it kind of looks nicer than a plain white background, although that being said, there's nothing wrong with plain white backgrounds. So by the way, in case you don't know, I've opened an Etsy shop. It's got printable things. Some of it is watercolor stuff that I've uploaded and created printables from. Some of it is watercolor that I've bought and created printables from, where I've bought a commercial license to use it. And I've created things like note paper and then printable art for your walls. And what else have I got in there? I've got a garden planner page, and I'm possibly going to try an art planner page, because I think that's something I might like to use. And a meal planner page I'm also thinking of doing, don't have yet. At the moment my main thing is printable note paper. As I'm taking this off, it's even still catching the paper a bit. So luckily not where I've painted, it's more on the deckled edge. But the edges are more or less clean, which is good. This Khadi paper is kind of a creamy color, so you can't fix it with a white gel pen. I actually think this is pretty. I think if I had a big piece of cardboard and I stuck this on, it would make quite a pretty handmade card. As far as my art is concerned, so comparing to nobody but me, myself and I think it's one of the better things I've created. Tell me what you think.